Hi, I'm Sophia.
And I'm Alex.
You're joining us for another episode of Policy in the Real World. What would you do if you walked up and down the aisles of your favorite grocery store and realized that the foods you love the most have changed in price?
If pastries had gone up 10% in price, would you drop the donuts and flee to the fruits? If fruits and vegetables were 10% cheaper than they used to be, would you stock up on the strawberries?
Ultimately, we would like to explore the question whether taxes and subsidies can be the silver bullet policy solution to curb the epidemic of obesity in the United States.
Join us.
You know, there's a great parable that goes, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And for a lot of policy analysis and a lot of public health people, they really do have just one or two hammers, and the hammer ends up being an economic incentive, like subsidizing something or taxing something, or it ends up being ban something, sanction something, make it illegal. So we want to look at this age-old debate of the tax versus subsidy. What would get people to eat better? If you tax the bad stuff, the bad food, the Hershey bars, the Snicker bars, the popsicles, or if instead you subsidize or incentivize people to buy the healthy food, the apples and the arugula and the bean sprouts. Okay. So we designed a study that would look at this. And unlike a lot of the other research that have been done in the area that just assumes that people would behave normally if you tax something, that they'd buy everything if you subsidize something, we actually went to a real live grocery store in Utica, New York. These are Hannaford Brothers. We went to 4 Hannaford Brothers stores in Utica, New York. We got them to essentially, for 6 months, subsidize the good foods for some people, tax the bad foods for some other people, and for some other people they did nothing. What we gave people money so that to be in the study, and then we either put them in a condition where we subsidized, that is we paid for 10% of anything they bought that was healthy. And we define healthy because Hannaford did it already for us by having stars on products, stars for healthy products. So if they bought a product that had any star on it, they got 10% gift from us. They're 10% off. Another group of people, each of these groups of people were about 80 people, 80 families. Another group of people, we taxed them. Anytime they ended up buying something that did not have a star, what happened is they essentially paid 10% more.
Go ahead.
So let's talk about subsidies. What did we find from our incredible Cornell study in Utica, New York? When we subsidize things by 10%, what that essentially means is that if you buy $25 worth of watermelons, which are healthy, what happens is that you end up getting a $2.50 sort of rebate. Okay, you get it for $22.50 instead of $25. That's what we mean by subsidies. If you are in the potting soil and escarole diet and you buy potting soil and escarole, if you buy $10 worth, you get $1 off. Okay, that's what subsidies mean. One of the things we found is that when we subsidize healthy foods and not the less healthy foods, does it work? Partly. People buy about 15% more healthy foods when you subsidize them. But here's what also happens when subsidies didn't work in this case. People also bought about 20% more of the unhealthy stuff. Okay? Essentially, you gave people subsidies, they bought more of everything. It didn't matter. So if your goal is to get people to only eat healthier food or to eat less, subsidies ain't working. What happened when we tax things? What happens when we charge an extra 10% for anything that was unhealthy or anything that didn't have a star? You buy that deep-fried, chocolate-covered foie gras for $30, we charge you $33. What happened? Did you buy less of that as time goes by? Well, the answer is yes, a little bit. Because here's what happens. We put a 10% tax on something that's unhealthy, people do buy a little less of that. But here's the bad thing. They also buy a whole lot less of the healthy stuff.
Did Professor Wansing's last study surprise you? Let's move on to another study with consumer behavior, which deals with two things college students know a lot about: soda and beer.
You know, there's a lot of stuff going on now where people say, if only we taxed soft drinks, America would not be fat anymore. We'd have tons of money to play with for public health. You know, people wouldn't be out there buying a 2-liter bottle of Coke or Pepsi and chugging it on the way to, third grade every day. So we want to look at what would happen if a tax actually went through. Does it actually get people to buy less soft drinks? There's a lot of big implications of this that go way beyond how it affects human behavior. There are implications to, is it prejudice against one type of population or another type of population because of their income, and all sorts of things like this. But let's just look at how it influences human behavior. What we did is we worked with Hanford stores up in Utica, New York. There's 4 of them, and we either taxed by 10% any full-calorie soft drink people bought, or we didn't. And we looked at how it influenced behavior. Here's what we thought: that it probably wouldn't have any impact at all on most people. One of the things that made us think this was there's a big sort of fat tax that Denmark, about in 2010 or so, put on a lot of its products, where if it was kind of unhealthy, it gave it different levels of tax. And in almost only a year, they ended up repealing that tax, because what they found was that it totally backfired. First of all, people didn't buy less of the stuff. They just bought the cheaper versions. They didn't buy the Coca-Cola or Pepsi. They bought Bob's Cola, which still had as many calories, but was just really cheap. Second of all, it put a lot of small businesses out of business. And third of all, it kind of created an underground market for some of this stuff, because what happens, people would just take their family roadster, drive over to Germany where this stuff wasn't taxed, load it up, come back and have a party. Okay, so they repealed that tax within about a year, just called it an unholy mother of a disaster. So we want to see what would happen if we did a tax here. It's really amazing what we found, and it's not what we would have guessed because of the unintended consequence of taxing soft drinks. Think about what that unintended consequence might be, and we'll be right back to you. Well, here's what happened. After 6 months, we'll start there, no effect at all, okay? People who were taxed by soft drinks were buying just as much as they did before. After 3 months, no effect of taxes at all, because after 3 months, they're buying the same amount they were before. After 1 month, a very small decrease, about a 15% decrease in how much soft drinks people purchased. But here's the problem. If you're not going to buy soft drinks, if you just said, well, it's a little expensive, maybe we shouldn't buy soft drinks, what are you going to drink with your hamburger? What are you going to drink with your pizza? What we found is that when there's a tax, beer drinking households bought significantly more beer during that time period. Non-beer buying households bought significantly more juice. And now I mean the good juice. I mean stuff like juicy juice and high C and mango chutney, Kool-Aid punch and things like that. Let me give you a quick example of how essentially using behavioral economics and psychology and not public policy can lead to a much better outcome. So there's something called the Smarter Lunchroom Movement. It's using behavioral economics and psychology to get kids to eat healthier in schools. We started it right here at Cornell, and it's a huge, big, cool national program. Here's the problem. Kids aren't eating very well in school. How do you get them to do it? Well, it's not by forcing them. It's not by using policy and saying, you have to take a vegetable, you have to take a fruit. Instead, it's by enticing them to take this step so that they believe they want it and they eat it. Let me give you an example. You want to increase fruit sales by 5%? Well, you can try making a price change, or what you can do, you can take that fruit, which is in a nasty chafer bin underneath the sneeze shield, put it in a nice bowl underneath the light. Sales will not go up 5%, they'll go up 103%. You want to sell more vegetables, or you want kids to eat more vegetables, don't just plop them in their tray and hope they'll do so, because they won't, they'll throw them away. We find just giving vegetables a very simple name, calling carrots, X-ray vision carrots, or calling vegetables from California, California blend, increase sales of vegetables by 28%. Changing the location of white milk in a carton gets people to take 38% more white milk than chocolate milk. Those are easy behavioral economic and psychological interventions that will trump policy any day.